In this lesson, you will learn about architecture. What is architecture? Architecture is the art of designing and creating buildings. It is also a style of a building. Some examples of architecture include houses, office buildings, museums, stores, schools, and churches. Today, we'll be talking about a specific style of architecture called Victorian. A Victorian house generally means any house built during the reign of Queen Victoria, which was from 1837 to 1901. Victorian-style homes can be smaller, charming cottages to towering mansions. Victorian architecture can come in many sizes and shapes, but there are some common key elements that make it a Victorian-style home. Let's take a look at some of the common key elements that a Victorian-style house has. Gables are very common in Victorian houses. As you can see in the photo, there are 4 gables on the front of the house with the arrows pointing to them. Gables are the triangular sections of the roof. Some of them can be obtuse, meaning more than 90-degree angles, and some can be acute, which means less than 90-degree angles. Gingerbread details are very common in Victorian-style homes. These are decorative accents found along gables, sometimes above windows and above doorways. Here you can see them inside the gables. Fish-scale shingles are also very common in Victorian-style houses. They're used on the outside of the house or on the roof. Notice how it looks like the scales of a fish. Here you can see a close-up of gingerbread details along the gable, as well as some fish-scale shingles on the side of the house. Here you can see gingerbread details along the gables of different Victorian houses. They can come in many different styles and colors. Another common key element of Victorian-style homes are bay windows, and those are windows that stick out from the side of the house, with one panel of glass in the middle and one on either side. Here you can see a turret. Turrets are rounded towers that stick out from an upper level on Victorian homes, usually from the second floor or higher. They are very common in Victorian architecture. You can also see gingerbread details on this house. And another common key element are windows. Lots and lots of windows are found in Victorian homes. This home also has a turret, and notice it has fish-scale shingles on the roof. Towers are also very common in Victorian homes. Towers are tall, rounded parts of the house that stick out and start at the ground level, or in other words, the first floor. They are usually found on the corner of a house like you see in this photo. Notice the 2 gables on the front of the house too, and it has fish-scale shingles on the roof. Turrets and towers are similar in the way that they look and are usually found on the corners of houses, but if you look here, turrets start from the second floor or higher on a house, and the tower starts all the way from the bottom floor of a house. As you can see in this photo, this house also has a tower. Another common key element in Victorian homes are that they have at least 2 floors to the house, or in other words, an upstairs and a downstairs. Many Victorian homes have more than 2 floors though. Some can have even 3 or 4 floors. Another common key element is that Victorian houses often have porches, like you see here in this photo. And some Victorian homes have a mixture of materials like this one. This house has fish-scale shingles on the roof and on the front of the house, as well as brick. And some Victorian homes are almost entirely made out of brick, like you see here in this photo. Some Victorian homes are mostly made with wood siding, which are horizontal slats of wood, as you can see here in this house. And some have a combination of all 3. This house has fish-scale shingles, brick, and wood siding. This picture shows a smaller, cute Victorian house with gingerbread details under the gable, above the windows, and at the top of the front porch. Notice it also has a large bay window on the first floor and has wood siding. Multiple chimneys are also a common key element. As you can see here, both of these Victorian homes have 2 chimneys. Look closely. What similarities do you notice in these two Victorian homes? Here you can pause the video to see how many similarities you can find. Did you find them all? Both have more than one chimney, both have a turret, both have 2 levels, both have a front porch, both have a lot of windows, both have gingerbread details, both have some fish scale shingles, and both have at least 2 gables. These are some amazing drawings of Victorian homes by my students. Before we draw a house, let's practice drawing Victorian architectural details. So I just wanted to show you my drawing once more, and I wanted to go over the Victorian elements that I included in my picture. So I included 2 chimneys, 2 gables with gingerbread details underneath each, a tower with gingerbread details at the top of the tower, fish scale shingles, lots of windows, including a bay window. And you can tell that there's at least 2 floors because of the rows of windows that are above and below each other. As you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3 floors. And then a front porch. And then I'm also going to show you how to draw 3D steps and some stone details, because you might want to include that into your house. Plus it's really fun to draw 3D steps to make your house look more realistic. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to draw some of the Victorian details that you saw earlier in the video. I think it's really important to practice drawing these Victorian elements so you know how to draw them before jumping right in and just drawing the house. So we'll start with the bay window. So to start your bay window, draw a rectangle. And then from there, you're going to draw a diagonal line going down, a diagonal line going up. Try to make sure they meet, they're at the same distance. Then on the opposite side, you're going to do the same thing, a diagonal line going down and a diagonal line going up. Try to keep it the same distance from this one. And then from that point, you're going to draw a straight line that connects and a straight line that connects there. So it already creates the illusion that it's popping out. But to make it look even more like a window, add another rectangle on the inside of the first one to create the frame. Then you can add a horizontal and vertical line to create the window panes. And on this side, you actually want to do the same thing for a diagonal and a diagonal. First we'll do the vertical right against the other vertical line. And then a short diagonal going this way, just like the one before. And then another short diagonal going down like that. And then a vertical connecting these two. And now we need to add the window panes. So a straight line down the middle. And this line, just pretend it's at a slight diagonal, just to create the illusion that it's going away from you. Now you're starting to see it look more 3D. And we'll do the same on the other side. And again, anytime I'm going too fast, just remember you can pause the video. And another diagonal line here, just like this one. And another vertical here connecting there. And then almost like a plus sign, except this line needs to go slightly down, creating the illusion that it's going away from you. So that's a bay window. Super fun to draw. Now let's do fish scale shingles. First I'm going to use a ruler. Let's pretend we're drawing fish scale shingles on the side of a house. Maybe there's a gable. We're trying to add them right here. So what I'm going to do is just very lightly draw some guidelines so that the fish scale shingles are all the same length and they are hitting the bottom of where the line is, and that they're straight. This will help you make sure that they're straight. Maybe I'll do one more right here. Extend those lines a little bit. All right, so I've got my pretend gable. I'm going to add fish scales on the inside. I'm going to start at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to do rows of U's or W's that are connecting. So starting along the edge, I'm just going to do one U and then keep going, and it's going to touch the top and bottom of those lines, keeping them consistently the same size and not slanted. And then just pretend it keeps going. And then the one above it, I'm going to draw it so it lands right there. So now that the line right here underneath actually goes up into the middle of the one above it, the middle of the one above it. It's actually a little bit easier to do it going from top to bottom, which I'll show you in a second. And then I'm going to pretend I'm drawing. And pretend I'm drawing. And they get fewer and fewer as you go up. Pretend I'm drawing. And there you have your fish scale shingles. I'm going to also show you from top to bottom because I think it's a little bit easier to do. So I'm just going to draw lines here. Try to keep them evenly spaced apart and not slanted. Highly recommend you use a ruler when you do your fish scale shingles like this. Just draw the lines super light so you can erase them later before sharpieing. So we'll do U's, connect them, trying to keep them the same size all the way across. Oh, there's something on the table there. And then the next row, you'd start a little bit further to the left of that top one, and it would touch the one in the middle above it, touch the one in the middle above it, touch the one in the middle above it, all the way across. Like so. Touch the one in the middle above it, like that. So fun to do. All right, let's do the top of a turret or tower. So let's pretend this is close to the top of my turret or tower. Basically, they're a cylindrical shape, so we're just drawing two lines for the side. And then what you want to do is draw kind of a Hershey's Kiss shape at the top of it. So I like to start from the bottom, but you can start from the top if you want. And you just kind of go out, and then it tapers in, and try to land that point right in the middle. And then the other side should be symmetrical as much as you can. And then let's practice that again, except let's go top to bottom. I'm going to make a smaller one because I don't have a lot of room. So I'm going to start top, try and line it up with the middle. And it goes out, and then down, out, and then down. And then we can just cap it off like that. And then here's where you can add gingerbread details. Any kind of fun details you'd like. Now let's do the steps to the door. So we're gonna do three-dimensional looking steps so they look super realistic. So first let's draw a door. So we have something for the steps to go to. So draw a rectangle. Might as well add the doorknob. And then we're gonna draw a diagonal line out, down, straight down, and then across and across where it's at the point. Let's try some more. Out, out, down, down, across, across. Sometimes it helps if you say that in your head as you're drawing. Out, out, down, down, across, across. Out, out, down, down, across, across. And there you have some 3D looking steps. All right, let's do some bricks for our chimneys. So first let's draw a chimney. Not the straightest line, but you get the idea. And then we'll draw some horizontal lines. Try to keep them evenly spaced apart. And then what you want to do is add 2 vertical lines. And then the one below it has one just in the middle of the one above it. And then you repeat it. So 2 lines, line them up. And then the next one's just one line that lines up with the one previous. And that's the pattern. You want to do 2 and then 1, 2 and then 1, and then 2, and then if that was the bottom of the chimney, 1. So now you have your brick pattern. Pretty cool, right? Now let's add some stone details, because you might want to use stones for maybe a walkway to the front door, or perhaps you want to use stones on the foundation like I did in my drawing. This is called the foundation, the part of the house that's held up by the stonework. So I'm gonna draw a pretend foundation first, so we have something for the stones to get into. And then basically what you want to do is draw almost like an organic shape. Organic shapes, remember, are shapes that are free-flowing, rounded usually, not symmetrical, things like puddles, clouds, things like that found in nature. So I'm going to do random. And also you want to vary some sizes. Some are smaller, some are larger. They almost fit together like a puzzle, but you leave a little space in between. Some can be more vertical than horizontal, maybe some horizontal thrown in. It's very much like a little puzzle. Maybe there's a big rock right here. And again, this can be very different when you do it. Just random, non-symmetrical, rounded shapes that have curves. Like that. And there's my stones again, so you can see. And then let's draw a gable with gingerbread details in this final box. This is very good practice for, before you start the final picture, I think. All right, let's draw a gable. So remember we talked about obtuse and acute gables earlier in the video, so I'm going to draw an obtuse gable, just the triangular part of the roof, and then add my details. It could be lots of curving lines like this. So many different ways you can draw these details. Think of a gingerbread house. Little cutouts right here, almost look like a sideways capital D, and then a backwards capital D. Or you could do more of a swirly line. Swirly wavy line. And then you could even go even further and add some more details to the inside. For more woodwork details, for the gingerbread details. So these are the goals for when creating your own Victorian style house. Use a ruler to draw any straight lines. Sketch lightly at first. Draw the house large on your paper, almost touching the top and bottom of your paper. Show your best effort, of course, and include these into your drawing. So using a ruler for any straight lines, the house is at least 2 levels or floors. Draw rows of windows above each other to show this. Include 5 or more windows, making at least 1 window a bay window. Include at least 2 gables. Include at least 2 areas showing gingerbread details. And include at least 2 chimneys. The optional choices are to add a turret, tower, or front porch. Now let's draw a house. So I'm going to show you how to draw this Victorian house here, but you can draw your house any way that you want to. Maybe you want to add your gable right here. Maybe you want to add another gable right there. Maybe you want to add a tower on this side of the house. Maybe you want to add your chimney right there and right there. Perhaps you want to add different shaped windows like squares instead of rectangles, or diamond shaped, more circle windows, more windows in general, more bay windows in general. Perhaps you want to draw your house so it's horizontal rather than vertical. Maybe you might want to add an oval or a rounded door for your front door. Maybe you want the front door right there instead. You decide how you want to add your house details, just making sure that you include them as Victorian architectural elements, just like we mentioned in a moment ago. All right, so let's start. So use a ruler for any straight lines, and you want to start near the top of your paper with one of the gables. So I'm going to draw mine right about there. You always want to work your way from top to bottom when you're drawing your house, rather than bottom to top. And I'm going to position my ruler. You want to hold your ruler in the middle as well, kind of make an L shape with your thumb and your finger, and hold it in the middle. That way it won't move on you and you can stabilize it. Because if you don't, let me show you on the back. Let's say you hold it way down here and you want to try and draw. It's not going to stabilize it and you're going to make a curved line by accident. So it's really important to make sure you hold your ruler right in the middle and make an L with your hand. So I'm going to start right about here to add my gable. Draw with a light touch. Another trick is to hold your pencil near the eraser instead of way down here, because the further closer to the graphite in the pencil, the more likely it is you're going to press down hard. So if you hold your pencil way back up here near your eraser, you're going to draw with a lighter touch. So I'm going to add my first gable, drawing really lightly, right about here. That's one angle of it. And then to help you match the other side so it's equal in length, just put your ruler horizontal and draw a straight line going across really lightly so you can erase this later. You can barely see it on the video, I'm sure. And I'm a righty, so I find it's easier if I turn my paper upside down to do the next step, to match and try and make it equal. I think if you're left-handed, it's not as hard. And that's pretty equal. And then you can just erase that guideline. So that's the start of my first gable. Now I'm going to add a vertical line down. Again, holding your ruler in the middle. And you want to make sure you leave some room for any chimneys near the top, as well as on the bottom you want to make sure you leave room for any steps for the front door. And we can erase some of this too. And then I'm going to do the other side. I kind of look at the left side of my ruler to see if it's equal in distance. Widthwise, if it's like off a little bit like this, we know that it's not going to be a straight line because you can see the area gets wider down here. So try to position it so you can see that this all looks pretty equal. And then you can erase any mistakes. All right, that's my first gable, part of the house. Now I'm going to add the top of my roof coming out to the right of the gable. And then I'm going to do a diagonal line for the end of the roof. And then I'm going to draw a really light line right where that corner is. And erase anything underneath that went a little bit beyond. And again, you can pause the video at any point in time. Now I'm going to draw the side of the house. Again, looking at the white space on the right side of my ruler to see if it's equal. It's not equal, it's not equal. Now it's about equal. Trying to line it up with the bottom. And then I think I'm going to add some chimneys. So I'm going to add my chimney right here coming out. And then the top of the chimney. And the side of the chimney. The chimney is coming out from behind that part of the gable, and this is overlapping the chimney. And then I'm going to add my other chimney. Maybe have one of your chimneys taller than the other one, just for variation. And again, I might just turn my paper upside down. Now I've got my chimneys done, except I need to add the details. I'll do that in a little bit. Let's add a tower. Remember, towers start on the first floor, not turrets. Turrets start on the second floor or higher. So it's going to go all the way down to the side of the house, but I'll have the line sticking out from behind the roof right here. And then I'm going to draw the other side of it. And it's peeking out from behind the house a little bit. Now I'm going to add the top line. And then we can add the top of the tower. So if this is like right in the middle, kind of draw a little dot. And it curves out and then meets up. And if your tower comes off the paper, that's okay. If there's just not enough room, maybe it just pretend it continues. Then I think I'll add my front door. And again, you can put your door anywhere you want. You can add your gable anywhere you want. You can add your tower, or if you want a tower, anywhere you want on the corner of the house. Maybe it's on this side. But I'm going to add a door right about here. And then I like to turn my paper so I can see where the other line is. Again, I'm pressing hard so the video picks it up. You should press light in case you need to erase. Top of the door, bottom of the door. And then we can add the doorknob. Now let's add some gingerbread details. Maybe I'll add some cutout details inside, just like before. Now let's add some fish scale shingles to the roof. So again, we're going to use super light lines because eventually after sharpieing, we'll erase these guidelines so our shingles are all equal in length. And they're not going to go slanted. Just kind of eyeball the distance that you're doing. And now I can go ahead and fill in the fish scale shingles. So I'm just going to pretend I'm drawing coming from this side, and then it makes the U, and then it's connecting U from there on out, touching that top and bottom line. Try to make them the same size if possible. And then remember the bottom, the second row ends in the middle of the one above it, ends in the middle of the one above it, ends in the middle of the one above it. I'm going fast for the video, but try to take your time, go slow, do the best you can. All right, now I'm going to add the bricks. So again, do horizontal lines first, evenly spaced apart if you can, keeping your lines straight. They disappear behind the gable. And then you can go in and add your vertical lines. So 2, then 1, 2, they line up with the one before, then 1 that lines up with the one before. 2, 1, 2, they don't see that line, barely see that line. And then 1, pretend that's there, and then 1, and you don't see the rest. Let's do the other one. And then that's the last one. 2, then 1. And then I'm going to add some windows. Let's add a bay window. I'm going to add a window right here, just like in the previous picture. So I'm going to draw a rectangle first. Make it a little longer. And then again, I'm going to turn my paper because I want to be able to see that line. I think that helps instead of the ruler covering it. And then you would add your diagonal line. And I'm not going to use my ruler for this part, but use your ruler. I'm just saving time by not using the ruler for the video. And it's a diagonal line that goes down, diagonal line that goes down, and then a diagonal line that goes up, diagonal line that goes up, and then these two lines meet with a vertical. And then you can just add lines like that instead of doing the rectangle first on the inside, or you can add the rectangle first, then do this. This is more of a simplified version. And then this line goes diagonal a little bit. Right down the middle, slightly diagonal. Let's add some curtains. And then I'm going to add another gable because we need 2 gables in our drawing. So I'm going to add one above the door. Try to line it up with the window above it. to my ruler. This line's a little longer on that side. I think I need to extend this a little bit. And then we can add gingerbread details inside here. Maybe to match the ones above if you'd like. If not, that's okay. They can be totally different designs. And then let's add even more detail on the inside. Maybe there's a line that comes down and then goes out. Let's add some more windows on either side of the gable. So I'm going to add a circular window right here. Super light touch, just in case. With some curtains. And then might as well make it symmetrical. I'm going to add another window on this side. Again, if you want to use your ruler to just draw a really faint line to kind of line up where the top of that window is so you can see how big you need to make your circle. With a really light touch, so you can erase those later. I really didn't like how that came out, but that's why we have erasers, right? And then we can erase the lines that we just created. Maybe we'll add a little detail window inside the door at the top. And then I think we'll add the front steps. I'm going to continue that line a little bit. And then, if you remember, to do the stairs, you go out, out, down, down, across, and across. Of course, it's better if you use a ruler, but I'm trying to go faster for the video. Out, out, down, down, across, and across. And I think we can fit one more. Out, out, down, down, across, and across. There's my my front steps. Now to add a railing, you would use your ruler to do a diagonal line from the doorknob height. So starting maybe right about here, just draw a little line, and then a diagonal line going down, and it's going to stop right about at the second stair, right about there. So I'm going to do a diagonal line right about there. I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to do a vertical. And then you would repeat it. And then stop, and then do a vertical. And then another line at the bottom. That's for one railing. Then you're going to do the verticals on the inside for part of the railing that holds up the railing. So this is the tricky part. You want to use your ruler, but I'm trying to do this faster without it. And space it out a little bit so you don't get confused. And so there's spaces in between. And this also needs to be straight as you can make it. It's really easy to want to go diagonal, but you really want to keep the lines straight. So I'm looking at the side of my paper and I'm seeing the white space, and is it equal all the way up and down? Then I know my lines are straight. And I'm going down all the way to that whatever step I'm hitting and then stopping. So I can really only fit 3. Otherwise, they're going to be too squished. And then you would do the other side right about the same height, so about doorknob height. Just draw a vertical little line first. And then I want to angle it down diagonally to about there. Try to make them equal. And then vertical lines that go down. And then it ends with another horizontal. And then I'm going to do the lines that go inside, straight down. So I added 3 over here, so I'm going to add 3 over here to make it equal. And that's how you create stairs that lead up to the front door. Now I think I'm going to add some more windows because there's all this blank space and we need to add more windows. So far I have 3. That's technically 4. First, let's actually draw where the house ends before the foundation. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this line over here. Draw a line. And then just erase the bottom part if I need to. And then I'm going to add my windows. Again, not using the ruler, but please use your ruler. I'm just doing this so I can show you quicker. Let's do another window here, let's say. And then I'm going to try to make it equal, so I'm just going to draw a line there. That's where my second window is going to be. And then go down straight. Add some curtains for details. Kind of looks like the capital letter K and a backwards K. Then I'm going to add another row of windows right below that. Line it up with the top line being the same length as the previous window. Now let's add some details that go below this top of the tower. I'm going to add first some cute gingerbread details, kind of like fish scale shingles, and then maybe a couple lines, and then maybe another row. So now I've got gingerbread details there and there and there. Then I'm going to add my front porch. So I'm going to draw a line that goes across, again, about doorknob height. So line up your ruler with the doorknob. And then the railing top. And then you would use verticals for the posts. All right, now let's add the foundation. So this is the part of the house that has the stonework. And this supports the house, the weight of the house. So I'm just going to connect this line with another vertical line, continue it. And then over here as well, below the tower. And then draw a horizontal line, but jump over the stairs. This is in between the stairs. And then you can fill in any gaps right here. There would be a little line. Jump over that one. And right here there would be a line, and also right there would be a line. Then we can add our stone. So again, random ovally wobbly shapes that look like puddles or clouds, kind of. Some small, some large. All the way across. leaving space in between each of the stones. And it's tricky to do, but there's some spaces where there would be stones in between the railings, so I'm just gonna draw a few stones sticking out behind the railing. Maybe one more right there. So it continues behind the railing. All right, we're getting there now. Let's add some windows in our tower. So I did circle windows. Again, this could be rectangular, they could be diamond, they could be oval. Lots of different shapes of windows. And some of these windows are actually hidden behind part of the roof or part of the house, so you don't see the whole window. Why not add more curtains, right? Put a third one right here because there's 3 floors. And you don't see the other curtain because this is covering it. And the other side of the curtain, maybe just the top part. All right, now let's add maybe a cute little mailbox next to the front door. I'm gonna draw a rectangle first. And then maybe a little detail above it. And give the little mailbox a number. Maybe it's your favorite number or the house of your actual, the number of your actual house. All right, I think that is it. There you have it, a Victorian house. Now it's time to Sharpie over all our lines. So now that I'm done with my drawing in pencil, it's time to Sharpie over all of our lines. And you want to use an ultra fine point Sharpie because it has a fine tip so you can get to all the details. I've already done my fish scale shingles in the roof, but now what I want to do is erase all those guidelines that I did earlier, the horizontal lines, so you don't see them anymore. So just erase those so they're not in your picture. Now I'm going to continue sharpieing and you will come back to a fully sharpied picture. All right, so now I've gone ahead and sharpied over all my lines and now I'm ready to add color. And we're going to use colored pencils to color in the house. I just wanted to show you a couple things on how to color the bricks so they look realistic, as well as the stones. So for the bricks, we're using reds and browns, and really all you need is 2 colors, red and brown, and maybe a white. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now, as well as the stones. And we're going to use browns, blacks, and maybe some white as well. So for the bricks, you want to use your red pressing really hard at first for maybe one of the bricks. And then for the next brick, to change the shade of it a tiny bit, if you can see in the picture, there's some variations, like a lighter red, almost a pink. We're gonna just not press down as hard. So maybe I'll skip a brick. And this changes the value. Value in art is how light or how dark a color is, the lightness or darkness of a color. So just by simply not pressing down as hard, you're changing the value of that color and you're making it a lighter value. Now maybe I'll add brown in between, and I'm pressing down hard so it's a dark brown. And then maybe I'll not press as hard for the next one, so it'll be a lighter brown. Changing the value of that brown just by pressing lighter. And then maybe for the next one, I'll do darker red again, kind of switch it up a little bit. Some are darker red, some are a little bit lighter, like in real life. And then maybe for this one, I'm going to show you, you can draw lightly, and then you can add white on top by pressing hard, and it will create almost a pink. And you can even do that with the brown. Just press lightly, color it in, and then press hard with the white on top to make it a different shade of brown, like a soft beige. So I'm just going to keep doing that until all my bricks are in a little bit. But let's talk about how to color in the stones. So just like in real life, some stones are brown, some stones are black, some stones are gray. So I'm going to do a little bit of dark brown by just pressing really hard. Then some lighter browns by not pressing as hard. Of course, if you have a different shade of brown colored pencil, you can do that way too. Maybe then I'll use a little bit of black to get gray. Just color it in softly. Then you can add white on top to mix with the black to make a gray. Some stones can be completely black. And switch it up so there's like a little variation. There's a dark one, there's a lighter one, there's a dark one again. And there's a lighter one. And then maybe a darker one right here. You get the idea. So I'm going to fast forward here and there as I color. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed learning about Victorian architecture and had fun drawing your own Victorian house. Thanks for watching.